Okay, this tutorial is how to create a header.php in your WordPress site. So if you remember, here we are looking at how we uploaded a parent theme that had all the WordPress files. It has tons of different WordPress files that are created for us. They're open source, templated, ready to go. So they have header in there, footer, style, function, page, a ton, etc. Tons of others. Then we uploaded our child theme, which we made our own folder, and all we had in it was our style sheet. Our style sheet that we created, and we can override any of the parents' attributes, like the background color or our font choice, or etc. So we created this file, and a result on our website is that we're taking all the files that they have and then whatever we replaced. So today, now we're doing this to another file. Instead of only the style sheet, we're also going to make our own header. So we can do a custom header for our website. And the result is going to be, this is my visual of this. Oops. Something like this. So we're going to make our own header file in our child theme, and the result's going to be our new header and our style sheet. All right, let's get started. So we have to log into 100 windows. So the first thing we have to log into is our WordPress dashboard by going to our admin and logging in with our username and password. I also opened the tab of our site. I'm going to refresh this because I deleted it, which kind of looks like this. Not much going on. Their header is blank. It's a naked header. So I have both of these tabs open. And then I also want to go to CyberDuck, and I'm going to, I'll rewind here real quick. I want to go into, log into my KUCD Interactive, and I want to go into my WordPress site. So you'll see your first initial last name .kucdinteractive.com. Double click in that. This is where you see all the WordPress files that are uploaded. From here, I'm going to go into WordPress content. This is the only place that you really hang out when you go in here. You don't go to anything else. And then from in the WordPress content is where you can see our themes. We're going to go into our themes and into our child theme. So everyone's child theme is different depending on what your website is. The only file that's currently in there is style.css. But now we're going to make another file. It's going to be called header.php. So I'm going to control click or right click and make a new file. I'm going to call it header.php. That's a blank file. If your FTP doesn't allow you to right click and make a new file, you can just drag in an empty header PHP file. Then what I'm going to do is I want to open both of these files in brackets. So I'm going to select them and go to edit with brackets. This is when you can right click on it. Shortcut on Mac is Command K. It's really important that you're working with the live files so you can see the changes right away. Okay, now everything's open. So we have two things open in our browser, and we have two things open in CyberDuck, which is our header PHP and style. If you look at the header PHP, it's empty. There's nothing in it. We just made it and it's blank. So what we need to do is add in what we want our header to look like. And I gave you under week 5 a link to this code pen where you can copy all this HTML. This is your header HTML that you can use. So I'm going to copy that and bring it over and paste it in. What this is all the stuff that's in the original theme, except I already cleaned it out for you. So really the only thing that's left in it is I added, you can see here's the normal. Open HTML, there's our head. This is where you can add some of your CSS. So I added in here Font Awesome link, the CSS reset. You want to ignore all these PHP tags, keep them there. That's what's making it a WordPress site. And then I kept this page ID. This is a container for the whole div. You can use this. You know, this you could say a max width of 1200 pixels or something like that in your CSS if you wanted to. And then the most important thing in here is your nav. Your nav links over to your WordPress site. So we don't want to touch this. We want to keep this and use the nav from our WordPress. It's going to make it easier for our clients. All right, so the only thing I needed for my layout is I needed to add a logo. You might have to add a lot more divs in here and kind of square away however your layout looks like in your header. Mine, I'm going to add a div called logo, which is underneath my navigation, and I'm going to put in an image. Now, when you're adding an image in WordPress, the easiest way to do that is to go back to your dashboard, and you want to upload all your images to the media link. So under dashboard media, if I go to my library, you can see I uploaded all my Cali burrito photos. I uploaded like a horizontal rule that I plan on using, a gradient I'm going to use, my footer coming up, and then the logo itself. So when I click on the logo, you'll see that there's a link, and depending if you're on what browser you're on, it's going to say something different here. Mine says copy link. You might say like FTP link. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it into my header.php. Close that. Hit save. And I'm going to come back here and do a hard refresh on my site to see if I can see my logo. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and hit my refresh button. There we go. Now, I already styled this. So how we style the things in our WordPress site is we have to add our CSS. And you can see here that I added a couple things already. For instance, I added my font in my CSS. So I'm using Josephine with 2 different weights, 400 and 700. I then added that font to my body so it's going to be used throughout the site unless I override it. I also added my logo. So this is linking back over here to say that I want my logo to be centered, and I want some margin on the top and bottom, 40 pixels, to just give it a little air. You can also see that I played with my navigation, which we did the previous class. And you can see here I have primary nav, it's flexing, it's 100 in height. The items are aligned center, no lists, no margin. And I have some link colors like my green and the font sizes. So I set this all up. And that's how we can see that right there. Now I did add this drop down, and I gave you a drop down which is in that same link over here under week 5. And what this does is I have a little bit of CSS that if you add this to your style sheet, it's going to create a drop down menu. So you can see here I added it, and I'll make a note that this is adding the drop down. If you don't have a drop down in yours, don't add this extra code. We want to have as little code as possible. So you can see here, if you do, I had to add the background color to the nav, which is that yellow. And then I also added, you might have to change the height of the drop down, depending on the height of yours. So you might have to finick with the code a little bit because everyone's is a little bit different, but this is all set up for your nav bar. And that's why on mine here, I have this little drop down that we added. So that's my header. I added my CSS, I added in here, and every time I hit save, it automatically updates on my WordPress site. That is because I am using the files from CyberDuck. Where's CyberDuck? There. Make sure that you're doing that. Now, we already had a responsive. We downloaded that WordPress for the hamburger, so I just had to set that for when I wanted that to the breakpoint of that. And you can find that and alter that on your WordPress site under the responsive menu. So in here, I would go through all these. The initial setup is when the breakpoint happens, so when it shows up. And then what the name of your other menu is to hide. So everyone's should be pound primary dash menu. That's going to hide the desktop version and show your hamburger. This is where you can go through and change some of these. If I didn't want my search in there, if I didn't want my title, how big I want it to be. I mean, you really have to go through and kind of check this out. Container color. I don't want mine blue. My font size, my font. So you really have to just read through this. And then whenever you're done, you have to hit this update options. What that's going to do is it's going to then update over here. So you can see that when I get down to 900, it updated and changed that from blue to black. I'm wondering if, let's see, there we go. So it also has already the drop downs in it as well. All right, so when it's going to be a lot of back and forth. Yours is probably not as simple as mine is to code with just a logo. You might have several divs, several CSS styles to add, but you want to make sure it looks great. Just the header for now.